Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is back for her part 2. That's right, Holly Celiano, who is an emotional, spiritual healer and has become a friend. She is just so lovely and helping me and many, many others on their spiritual journey. We talk all kinds of things about raising your vibration and being unified and the law of acceptance and so on and so on. So much good stuff. So I can't wait for you to go and hear her again. All right, let's go and say hello to Holly. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhige, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Guess what, everyone? My book is out. It is a revised and updated edition of a book I wrote 5 years ago called No Frickin' Way, 21 Days to Ditch the Diet and Lose Weight the Keto Way by Loving Yourself to Health. When I first wrote the original book, I was not a believer in the low carb movement, but after all the years of research I've done, I am sold out for life. In this book, you will learn about all the lies you have been fed, how to engage in loving self-care, how to eat nourishing foods that provide massive energy, why the ketogenic diet is not a fad, how to heal your body through fasting, why you should move your body to get stronger, and how to create an empowering mindset. Start reading now and finally achieve the high energy and positive body image you deserve. Check it out on Kindle, on Amazon. And if you like it, please leave us a review because this will help more people find it. I really want to inspire people to not deprive themselves, but to nourish themselves with loving self-care and amazingly healthy food so that they can age stronger. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Hey, Holly, thank you so much for coming back on the show today, my dear.
It is a pleasure to be back. I know the last show was a big success, and it's great to be back again.
Oh, I'm so excited because we're going to talk about all things good to help people. So do you want to kind of frame up what we're going to talk about first today, and then I can get everything rolling?
Sure. So I write poetry every day, and I wrote a poem back last year about I choose to be different, to stand out in the crowd, to walk to a different beat. And you're going to play the poem, and my friend Poe put it to music and put it to videos. And really what those of us that are in our mid age, we all chose to be different, to stand out in the crowd. And we are, most of us, the black sheep in our family. We don't fit in. We're here to make a difference. We came in with a specific purpose, and we are on that path and doing that purpose that we came in with. It's a inner knowing. And once that's ignited in you, you can't turn it off. You cannot deny your purpose, your path, your destiny. You have to just continue walking that path, even if everybody else around you thinks you're absolutely crazy. Your family and friends, even if they don't get you, they don't understand why you are this way, it's because you're wired this way. You came in this way. And they're not wired the way you are. They're wired completely differently. And they came in with a completely different purpose. So of course they're not going to get your purpose because it's not their purpose.
Yeah. And sadly, some will accept you and others will not.
Correct. And they'll criticize you and they'll judge you and they can be cruel and harsh. And
Yeah.
I've had it all. And, the whole purpose is this being your true, authentic self and allowing every single person to be their true, authentic self and to stop all judgment of everybody. Because you just realize people came in for a specific purpose. And when you allow them to play out, whatever that is, you're not going to judge them. That's what they're here for.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's roll it.
I choose to be different, to stand out in the crowd, to walk to a different beat, to be the black sheep in the family, to not follow the rules, to disrupt the system, to rattle the cages, to challenge those and ask questions. Why? I came here to be different, to follow my own path, to be an outsider to the in crowd, to wonder why, to cry out when feeling alone, to find comfort in the storm and solace in my tears, and to know, no matter what, I am not alone. And my tribe is coming home. When different is the new normal, encourage our truth. I stand with others who are just like me.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I believe that really touches home to most of the people that we're attracting in our lives right now that have found each other. And we are here for a purpose. We're here for a specific reason. And we're finding that and finding our tribe, the people just like us that knew that they came in for a specific reason, for a purpose. And I believe those of us that are on this path knew at a very young age that they came in for a specific purpose. I know for myself, when I was very young, I knew I was here for a reason. And, I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to go through another life. I just kind of knew it was going to be a little bit harsh and thought, oh boy, I don't want to do this again. And every year I, ask God, okay, so when is this thing going to show up in my life that I'm supposed to be doing? And it wasn't until I hit my 50s when I discovered, my purpose. And it's part of that great awakening. It is being on the front line of that and gaining momentum and encouraging people and getting my tribe together. And, just to be part of this momentous event that's happening on the planet. I believe those of us that are in this great awakening have all similar feelings inside.
Yeah. So for the listeners that don't really understand what you're speaking of being this great awakening, maybe this is the first show they've heard and they just don't know what that looks like. What do you mean by that specifically?
So the great awakening is last show, we talked about the different dimensions, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, or they could be densities. We could call them density because in the third density, it's heavy. You're obsessed with thoughts of, all about yourself, about work, about earning money. And The Great Awakening is as we all rise in our consciousness and start realizing that there's something more to this life, to this existence, than what we thought. That's the Great Awakening. It's realizing that everybody and everything is connected. My choices in this life have a great impact on everybody and everything around me. So, I had talked last time about the pebble in the water. I'm that pebble in the water. So whatever I'm going to do is going to have a ripple effect. So the Great Awakening's coming out of that deep slumber of life that we thought we knew. And there really is a whole nother life outside of living in making money, having a job, raising kids, retiring, and then dying. There's so much more to that. And it's waking up to the fact that we are creator beings. We are all connected to every single living thing on the planet. And we have incredible powers and gifts inside us. And most people look outside themselves for every single thing. They look outside themselves for God. They go to a church, they go to a mausoleum, or wherever their house of worship is, looking for God. And God is inside you. Your house of worship is inside. It's connecting to the God being within you. And that truly is the Great Awakening, when you connect to the God being within and you spark that divine energy. It ignites you. It's the Christ consciousness. It is everybody on the planet becoming the Christ consciousness.
So would you also equate that God within to like the Holy Spirit, how the Holy Spirit would go and indwell in a believer?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. I've always referred to it as the Holy Spirit, but I think some people that would be more of a familiar term than right. God within. So the Holy Spirit, like everybody knows, well, like a lot of people know that the Holy Spirit dwells inside of our hearts as a believer. Right. So how long ago, actually, let me tell you a story and then I'm going to ask you some more questions. So, I had no idea that any of this outside the church realm existed. And maybe a few years ago, I started learning about energy work and about angels and, this girl I know that's a medium and just all this stuff. Right. And so I started going down that pathway. And a lot of my friends from the church, they thought I was nuts because I was telling them about my friend that talks to angels and just all these different things. One of them, my dad died, and then she was able to talk to my dad, and shortly after his death 2 years ago. So I started tapping in and asking questions and just trying to really tap into, the universe or to God and the angelic realm. And so about 6 months ago, I had a experience with a bird, and it was stuck in my garage. And I was trying to shoo it out with a broom and it wouldn't go. And it was a hummingbird. And finally, I just went and I took it and I grabbed it and I put it in my hand. And it sat in my palm for like 5 minutes, like so long. It just sat there looking at me. And finally, I took it out and I took it to a tree with flowers and I lifted it up so it would go to the tree. And then a few months later, I had an experience on my back porch with this bird that was sitting there on my couch, just sitting there. And I went up to it and I thought, well, like, are you okay? Are you dead? Like, I didn't know. And so I started like nudging it and it just sat there. So I thought, well, maybe it's hurt, doesn't feel good. So I made like a little cave for it. And then I checked on it in the morning and it was gone, but it let me touch it. Then maybe a week or two after that, same couch, maybe the same bird, I don't know. But that one let me actually pet it. And like it would fly to a different little spot on my porch and I'd go up and I'd pet it again. And then finally it flew off. And then this weekend, Holly, this is crazy. So this bird got hurt. This little kid threw something on it. And I was in a meditation with Reiki on me at the moment. And then I heard this thump. My husband said this kid threw a backpack on a bird. The bird couldn't fly. So the bird was just sitting in the sand. And I already was running Reiki energy. And I started talking to this bird in my mind, like, kind of telepathically or whatever. And I started doing prayer, like the praying medics healing prayers. And I was praying for the bird to be healed. I was sending energy to the bird. And I told the bird, come closer and I'll send you more. I'll give you more Reiki. And I kid you not, the bird walked up to me and started nibbling. I had my hands up like as if I was, beaming energy to the bird. And it started nibbling on my fingers. And then the bird walked away. And then I decided to take a nap. Maybe, I don't know, half an hour later, the bird came back, started circling my towel, looking at me. And my husband was just like, oh my gosh. And then the bird walked underneath my husband's bent legs, like he was sitting in his beach chair, and it just kind of went down the beach.
That's an amazing story with birds. Wow.
I know. It's like my husband now is singing that song to me. Why do birds, So anyways, but it's just like, I think it's because my vibration has just risen so much through the last couple of years that now the frequency, their understanding, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. You have been raising your vibration. And when you raise your vibration, you do connect on a different level to the animal kingdom and to the plant kingdom. And they all have a vibration. So you're vibrating higher where you can connect. That's like in the Bible, they talk about the lion lays down with the lamb. Well, because they're all vibrating so high, they're not going to be competitive. They're understanding the same language. They're on the same vibration. So the same with the birds. You're communicating with them. They're communicating with you because of the vibration you're emanating. And also birds are messengers. Animals can show up as messengers, not just birds, but any animal can be a messenger to give you a message. Like if you're able to go up and pet the bird, I think you had told me one time we were talking, the bird that was on your couch, it was shortly after your father had died. And that was your father giving you a message, a comfort that he's fine and safe. And that bird showed up twice for you.
Yeah. Now that was actually, he had died like 2 years ago. So that bird was in December and his birthday was right around that same week. So that, or maybe the day after or the day before, it was close to his birthday. So, but yeah, it was about, I don't know if it was the same bird. I'm assuming it was. I've never had a bird sit on my couch like that.
Right.
So, but yeah, it came twice, about a week apart.
Right.
So anyway, I just thought that was cool. And I wanted to share that story on air so that the listeners could hear it too. And to realize that we all have these gifts, but it's just practicing, developing, like playing the piano, right? You're not going to just wake up one day and, hit out some Mozart, but it's like, we have these gifts that we can practice and they will grow.
And it's, in the Bible, they talk about, Jesus has said, you can do all these things and more. Well, we all have the same innate abilities as Jesus does and more. It's a muscle. When you go to work out, you're not just, going to go out and, lift 125 pounds off the get-go. You have to build up to that. So same with walking this path on raising your vibration. It's you build it up. It's a muscle that keeps developing over time. You grow that the Holy Spirit or your God being within your heart flame, that grows and that ignites and that just fuels more energy and vibration, and you keep it going. You fan it. It's that muscle that you continually build on. And that's how you can do all these miraculous things. It's not that anybody is, born super special, though there are some people that do have innate gifts born, but we all have those same gifts. They're just very dormant in us. So the Great Awakening is awakening those dormant gifts inside of us that we all have, and realize that we are so much more powerful than we thought we were. We have these incredible innate abilities that we all can tap into. And it's just awakening to that.
Mm-hmm. And at what point did you realize that you had this connection, or when did you become aware of the spiritual side of things and what was to come?
So last time I spoke, I think I mentioned I was on started my awakening in the 1980s, but it was more on working with Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and more motivational speakers. And it was my youngest daughter actually started me on my path, because when she was born, she would see things and I didn't understand what she was seeing because I hadn't been exposed to any of that. And she'd sit and talk to her imaginary friends all day long. And I was like, what are you doing? And, I had met people that explained that she can see the spirit realm, and they were always there, and she heard things and she saw things. And it made me realize, wow, this kid's waking me up to so much more than I ever knew existed. And all my children, I have 3 children, and all of them have woken me up further on my path because of things that they saw as children, that I knew there was way more to life, than what they're seeing. There had to be something else. So it started me to investigate and get on a path. And really in the 90s was when I really started that spiritual path. But then, as I told you last time, I shut down because it was causing a problem in my marriage. And it was when I had my breast cancer in 2009 is when I really said, this is a wake-up call. I need to get back on my path. I need to do what I'm here for. And I just dove into it, complete full immersion. And I have developed my gifts and developed that muscle of my vibration, increasing it, and my intuition, and all of that's developed as a result.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then let's talk about your video. So
Sure.
what inspired you to write that poem?
What inspired me is I've always felt like I never fit in. I always felt like an outcast in the world, with people, with my family. I mean, even, today, my siblings think I'm absolutely, just so out there. They don't get it because it's not their world. So it's always made me feel like I don't fit in, that I am different, and I've been the black sheep. And even my kids, as much as they love me, they don't quite understand the path that I'm on, because it doesn't fit into what they think, their mother should be on. So it's, just being different, but it's being true to yourself. When you're awake and aware, you can't turn it off. You can't go back to sleep and say, okay, I know all this, but I'm not going to do it. We have to follow our path and our destiny. And, it is the way we all came in wired, and everybody came in wired with a different path and destiny. And I was telling my daughter, my middle daughter, this winter, that, she doesn't have to understand my choices or what I do, or like them, because what I came in with is completely different than her generation. There is our generation, I think, Tracy, you and I are both wired this way. We came in with this in our being. We can't turn it off. Her generation, the younger generation, as I was telling her, they came in wired completely different. Maybe their path is not being part of the Great Awakening, but that's our path. Maybe their path is, something that we don't even know that they're here for. And they, it wasn't until my 50s when I found my purpose. Maybe they're going to be 50 when they discover what their purpose is. Maybe they're our cleanup crew. I don't know. But, everybody, it's just where you don't judge anybody, because everybody has their own innate gifts and path and destiny. And it's just accepting that for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I wish that was the case. Like nowadays, I feel like in the last 2 years that everybody is so judgy on different people's opinions about things. Whereas in the past, like, I was like a Christian, a Bible thumping mama, and I had friends that were Jewish, and I've never been very political until COVID hit, because then I just knew something was wrong. I mean, that's how Holly, I swear, I didn't even know who Mike Pence or Joe Biden were 2 years ago.
Wow.
I didn't even know.
Wow.
I was so not political. But now all of a sudden, when one of my friends, and I don't care if people know this, when one of my friends found out I voted for Trump, I had several friends flip out at me. And I was just like, what's the big deal? Like, I didn't understand why all of a sudden that was like, we're not friends anymore. And it was like unbelievable. So I know what you mean about, all of that. But to me, it's like judgment is something that, I don't know. I've just never been a big judgy type person.
Right. And it's sad that you would lose a friend over who you voted for, or even, my daughter, she had a friend that was so pro getting the vaccine, and, my daughter didn't get the vaccine, and she refused to be her friend any longer because of that. They ended their friendship because my daughter would not get the vaccine, and her friend was so adamant. She thought she was the most horrific person because she wouldn't get a vaccine. And I thought, how sad, that people will judge you like that so harshly, and a friendship over who you vote for, or whether you get a vaccine or not, or whatever your religious views are, or whatever. I mean, it's all this judgment needs to go away, and let everybody just be whatever flips their switch, whatever beliefs they want to follow, whatever path they want to go on, as long as you do no harm. If you're not doing any harm, what does it matter who you vote for? What does it matter whether you got the COVID shot or vaccine or not? That's the big thing in society, is people need to just stop all judgment and let everybody just be what they want to be.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be, I don't know if I've told you a story, but there's a great story I heard that said that if you take red ants and black ants and put them in a jar, they live together just fine. But if somebody comes up and shakes the jar, they start fighting. And I believe us as a country and as a world, we would be just fine if there wasn't, the controllers of the world shaking the jar.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what they want. Their whole thing has been divide and conquer. They want us all divided. They want us all fighting. They want us all judging each other. And they fuel it, unfortunately, and people buy into it. And, it's just waking up and saying, I'm not going to play in that arena anymore. I'm not going to play that part. I'm not going to be divided. I'm not going to be in judgment. I'm going to let everybody just be. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's a lot of people that still, are in that divide and conquer mindset. And they're still, going to defend themselves and fight. And, that all needs to go. It doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah. Well, like they say that one of the biggest human needs is for people to be right, like that they are right,
Right.
you know? So that's what it is, I believe, is that they just feel like they want to be right. But, you know,
And they will fight to the end to be right. They have to have the last word. And then you defend yourself to be
mhm.
right. And you defend your beliefs. And I could care less about being right. You want to go play that game, go ahead, have at it. I'm not going to play anymore. And it all stops if I don't partake in that anymore. That you can't argue by yourself. You need somebody else to argue with you. So if I stop arguing, well, then the whole thing just ends. And I've
Yeah.
kind of learned to do that with, all these people that I just refuse to partake in it anymore. It's a waste of energy, number one. It's useless energy arguing over silly, silly things. And it's a waste of time. I have better things to do with my time and energy than to argue just to be right.
So what would you tell somebody who, like, how could you help them? Like, so for instance, I posted something on Facebook that I thought was really cool. That was a letter a psychologist wrote about the harm that these masks are doing to children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, California, it's been going on 2 years pretty quick, that these kids have worn masks, and it kills my heart.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody was like in agreement, except for one person called him an ass hat and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, that's really harsh. Why do you say that? And she just kind of went off. And at first my stomach kind of got in that like little knot, like, I just like peace, I'm all about peace.
Right.
But then I thought, so I always like have this little practice I do to let go of that type of stress or whatever. What would you tell listeners that whenever they feel that little creeping angst in their gut, how that they could say somebody said something that hurt their feelings, or like you just said, I just don't go there. How do you not go there?
Well, again, I used to go there. It's become, it's that muscle you have to develop so that it doesn't affect you. And it really goes back to when you know who you are as a person, you don't care what anybody says about you. Like their words, people could say the most god awful things, which they have to me. And I used to let them affect me. And now it's like, okay, I'm not even going to let that in because I know who I am as a person. I know I'm a good person. I know I'm doing great things on the planet. So whatever you want to say, whatever judgment you have, it's not going to affect me. But if you're not at that level yet where it's still affecting you and somebody says something, because I used to do that, it would go in my gut and I would just grind on something for days. The best thing would be to, I always like the pause, before you go back to somebody and say something, because once it comes out of your mouth or you type it out and you hit the send button, it's out there forever. And it's better to just pause and think before you say something hurtful or mean or out of anger or being in an emotional embroiled mess. Pause. Just, sit there and pause before you do anything and just feel into it, and then just do some deep breaths and release it, because it's basically their energy came at you and it hit you and it went inside you. And that's where you're feeling that in your gut. And it's just do some deep breathing and exhale it, get it out of you. And don't take it on. It's not yours, it's theirs. And if you're of the mindset where you understand that hurt people hurt people. I mean, really, that's what they're doing. They're hurt, they want to hurt you. And when you see that that's where they're coming from, they're not going to hurt you because you realize they're just wounded and they're lashing out. And again, it goes back, well, I have to be right. I have to be heard. I'm hurt and I just need to make a stand.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that quote. Hurt people hurt people.
Yep.
That's
And
really good.
They do over and over.
Yeah. So it's almost like, I mean, like what I do is I have to practice this frequently, but I love what you taught me about cutting the cord.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best. I mean, that is amazing. But before I learned that, I would do the Ho'oponopono. You know what that is?
Yes. And that's wonderful.
So whenever I find myself doing like having a thought about something that doesn't feel good, I try to like clean it using the Ho'oponopono.
Well, we could do for your listeners, the cord cutting. We could just teach them that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you have something with another person, something going on that's negative, or they've hurt you, or whatever it is, we have all cords that attach us to other people. There's the heart cord that attaches heart to another person. And then we have negative energetic cords that attach us to other people. And if people say cruel, harshful, mean things, then there's those negative energetic cords that you're attached. And that's why you feel this angst going with each other. So what you want to do is call in a mentor. It could be Archangel Michael or a saint or somebody of their imagination, and see the heart cord that connects you to the other person. If it's tarnished or frayed, ask this mentor to place their hands on that heart cord and to heal it until it's golden, shiny, and healthy. Then see the cords that connect you to the other person, all those negative energetic cords, and ask your mentor to cut both ends of those cords from you to the other person and send light and love to both ends, and see the other person's face become happy and smiling that they're being set free, and then see your face being set free, that you're not attached to each other in a negative energetic way. And that's something you can do anytime. Just take a moment, pause, close your eyes, and then just cut those cords. And you'll feel so much better when those cords are cut and the other person feels better. And if you had something going on with that person, you could see a shift in them. They may reach out to you. They may apologize. There may be some healing. It's just, you don't know what that's going to do, but everything is energy. So whatever you're doing is on an energetic level is going to affect them and affect everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So with that, that reminds me of a phenomenon, and you can probably go into this a little bit, the butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm. So what do you mean?
Well, what is it for people who don't know?
The butterfly effect?
Oh, you haven't heard of that one?
I have not heard about the butterfly effect.
Oh, okay. So it essentially means like, everything's energy, right? That's in so much as just the wings of a butterfly flapping can like influence outcomes from an energetic perspective.
Okay.
So that is actually, let me look up the exact definition. Oh, by the way, something interesting. You know what came up right after your video as how like YouTube like will just play things over and like
right.
kind of repetition? Catherine Edwards and Tarot by Janine.
That's funny.
I don't know if you know who Catherine
Yeah.
Edwards is, but she's a hoot. I think she's so
So going back to the butterfly effect, yes, that's every single thing has an effect on every other thing. You know, the flapping of the wings is moving energy. It is doing something. Just like, you know, the bees have to go to the flowers and pollinate them. And, you know, there's just every single thing is connected and has an effect on every other living thing. And if you think that your energy does not affect anything, it does. We affect everything. That's why be really conscious of your thoughts, words, and actions, because they all affect the greater whole of everything. And people don't really consciously think about what they're saying. Is it loving and kind? What they're doing, is it loving and kind? And, you know, everything affects the greater whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you can shift the planet. If everybody got on that mindset to be mindful of what they're doing, then the world would be a much better world because we'd be living mindfully.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think so many people are so focused on physicality that they don't quite comprehend even like the quantum realm, and the vibration of even like a pencil's atoms or a wall, or, you know, they don't comprehend everything because all they're doing is looking at this body and they're not going outside of it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, most people focus on their physical being, the exterior, and they focus on material things. So they spend their entire life focused on the physical being, you know, adorning it, dressing it up, you know, hair, makeup, whatever. And they're not working on the inner being, but your beauty truly comes from the inner being, from the inside out. So as you heal the inside, you look better on the outside. And it goes back to, you know, what we did the last time talking about emotions.
Yeah.
It's those heavy emotions we carry around age us. And when you let go of those emotions, you are lighter, you're healthier, you have more energy, the body moves, it's not, you know, crippled, it's not hunched over, it's got flexibility, your skin looks healthy, youthful. And, you know, last time I was here, I told you I'm 60 years old. And it's because I have done so much inner work that it's actually age regressed me.
Yay. Good. There's hope for me then.
Yeah.
You look amazing. Okay, so check this out. This is what it says. The butterfly effect is a phenomenon where a small change at one place in a complex system can have large effects elsewhere. Example, a butterfly flapping its wings in Rio de Janeiro might change the weather in Chicago.
Wow. Very cool.
What percentage of the US would you believe is aware of this great awakening and what we're stepping into as a new world, a new earth?
I'm not quite sure what percentage. I know they really want the percentage to be on the tipping scale of 50%, and that's what will tip the great awakening to happen. Are we there? I think we're close globally for that to happen, from what I have been told. But I don't know how much in America. I don't know. I know it's been increasing every year and the energies on the planet increase. And, you know, the whole COVID thing and what's going on, especially right now in Canada, that is having a huge effect on the Great Awakening. COVID, the lockdowns, the mandates, because people realized, oh my God, like this is tyrannical, what's being done. and what they're forcing, and the vaccination and what's being done to the children. And now in Canada, that's having a tremendous effect on waking people up, because you can see it's become a totalitarian country, their dictatorship. And, God bless the Canadians standing up and saying, no, we will fight for our children and for our freedom, and we will not give in. They're going to stay the course. They'll be arrested. They've had their accounts blocked, and it's horrible what's being done to them. But God bless them, because they are having a tremendous effect globally. You talk about a butterfly effect, that is affecting everything else globally. And that's huge.
Yeah, I was following that the whole time. I guess they dispersed from Ottawa, but they're going to reconvene elsewhere because that some really bad like UN military or something showed up and was abusing them.
Right.
And so they left Ottawa, but they're going to go elsewhere. And then the one in the US, I think, started today.
Yes. And it should arrive in DC on March 1st.
Yeah, they're coming in from all over. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, it's global. The trucker convoy is going globally. I mean, other countries have done the same thing. And that's really your grassroots, the truckers, because they get our goods and services from point A to point B. And if they're not delivering goods and services, it's going to shut down, countries, and it will have a huge effect. That's where you're going to hit these politicians in their pocket is, not having goods and services, and people standing up and saying, no, we're not going to go along with this anymore.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh.
California has been ridiculous. Like in my county, they still have a mask mandate in place. And we went away this last weekend, and it felt so good to go somewhere where that they weren't, most of the places there were like no masks. And it just felt so good to see smiles.
Right. Yes. These masks, I mean, God help these children that have had to wear them in school and all the time. It's going to have effects that we don't even know that's had on these young kids. And it really is child cruelty. I mean, it's horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for the generation that has had to endure this in these schools.
Yeah, for sure. One of my friends just on Friday was fighting with the school district about they want her to get the shot and she doesn't want it. And so she did a religious exemption hearing or whatever, and she doesn't know how they're going to rule on it. But I told her we're going to go after the school boards locally. Like, I'm just done. I mean, my youngest is 25. So as far as all that goes, I don't, it's not affecting me personally, but it's affecting people in my community. And I just feel like I have to do something to step in,
I agree. And you know what? That's all of us stepping in and doing our part. We are the generation right now that if we don't step in and do something, then God help us. This is going to be devastating for the entire world, because if we don't change what's being done now, then we are at a point of no return. We are right on the precipice for either waking up and saying, no, we're not going to do this and go along with this, or we're going to fall into such despair that we won't be able to come out of it. And actually, I'm doing another video with my friend Poe. I wrote a thing on this, on the Great Awakening, and he's starting to compose it and put it together. It's going to be fabulous, all about the Great Awakening, that we're on this precipice right now. And it's up to us to awaken and say, no, we are not going to back down. We're not going to give in. I mean, it is right now, do or die. And people, I think, see that, especially with what's going on in Canada. They realize, our back's up against a wall. We either fight and say no, or we are going to be in such strict lockdowns forever, globally. So it's really coming very, very front and center and home for everybody that it's now or never.
So what would you tell people who are like just now tuning in and going, oh my gosh, what is this all about? Like, what would you tell them to go do research on, or tips on how they can, get it out ahead of this, since they're kind of lagging as it is,
So there's all kinds of information out there on alternative news. And, the regular news channels are not going to tell you what you want to hear, because they're all controlled. It's, they're going to tell you what they want you to know. So go look up X22 report has some very wonderful things. There's Jocko, 107. There's other people out there that have all different podcasts. Gene Decode, another great one, that will awaken you to other news that the regular channels are not going to tell you, and start educating what this is all about.
Yeah. I think in the beginning of my journey, I found Del Bigtree.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I started learning a little bit about because I'm on the medical side of things.
Right.
Mine all started with like, what was her name, or what is her name? Judy Mikovits, Dr. Buttar, Dr. Shiva. That led me to Del Bigtree. And that's kind of where I was, just on the health side of things. Right. I find that Michael Jaco, X22, Gene Decode are more like the political side of things. So
it depends on whether they want to go start checking out on, the alternative health or the political. I think they all go hand in hand.
Yeah.
All tied in together. Nothing is separate from each other. So it's people saying something's off, something's not right, and questioning, why, and then doing some research and then coming up with different answers.
Yeah.
That the mainstream media is telling you.
Right. Exactly. I had no clue any of this was happening. It's funny. I'm trying to get Michael Jaco on my show. One of my listeners reached out to me about a health condition, and I looked her up on Facebook. She Facebook messaged me, and I saw that she was friends with him. I'm like, how do you know him? She's like, well, my son was in Navy SEALs and he was his trainer in Navy SEALs. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to get him on the show to talk about his spirituality, because I know he goes deep into like spiritual stuff too. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was funny that you mentioned his name.
Right. Well,
so
they're all connected, everything.
Who do you like to listen to?
Pretty much those that I mentioned. I used to listen to so many people, and then it just got to be overwhelming. It was too much information. And I really need to pick and choose what I listen to now, because I just feel like I'm saturated. I've listened to so much, and I already know what I know, and I'm waiting for the movie to end. We're on the other side of this.
Yes.
So, there are those people I do listen to just to hear tidbits about what they have to say and where we're at, and just kind of get a feel for, are we almost, on the other side of the Great Awakening?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I love it. I love listening to X22, Michael Jaco, Gene Decode. I have a hard time finding his stuff out there. It's like I just don't get any of his links or anything, but I love listening to you, Holly. I love your rooms and Telegram. I love your little morning message. And I feel like we're on the same wavelength as far as it's easy listening. So for the listeners that don't follow you yet on Telegram, I'll go ahead and put some links in the show notes page so they can find your rooms.
Great. Thank you. Well, it was a pleasure being back. I hope this helps everybody on their great awakening. Start questioning, start investigating, what is this world all about? What are we here for? What's this great awakening? Start listening to some of these people and, wake up even more. Start going down that rabbit hole. Once you go down the rabbit hole, you can't come back. Once you know what you know, you can't unknow what you know.
Yeah, that's true. And be encouraged, because as things look really dark right now, God wins and we will end up victorious on the other side of all this.
Absolutely. God does win and God is in control, and never give up on that. That is true.
Yeah, that's all we have is hope and faith, so awesome. Well, it was good to see you again. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. So have a beautiful, blessed rest of the afternoon.
You too. Okay, you guys, that was so good. I just love talking with Holly, and I hope you enjoy her too. Make sure you've listened to her first episode. And then if you like what you hear, you can book a one-on-one appointment with her. Just send me an email at tracy@highenergygirl.com and I will forward you her contact info. I don't want to put it out here so she's not inundated. But if you email me, I'll give you her contact info and you can do a one-on-one emotional healing appointment with her as well. It's pretty awesome. And for complete show notes, please head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/show. All right, make it a great day, you guys. Bye now.